Welcome to 10 Minutes with Barb and Ron. I'm Ron Rogers, and of course you all know me, and you also know this other person, but she'll introduce herself and the topic.
Hello, everyone. Barb Gentili Green here. Ron always makes me laugh. That's, I think, his goal, but it works. So, we thought that today, whenever you listen to this, we'll talk a little bit about the language that we use in our classrooms, in our buildings, in our districts, when we are implementing UDL. Like, what is somebody likely to hear if they walk into a classroom or they walk into a building that has really grabbed onto UDL and made it a part of what they do? So does that make sense, Ron? Is that clear?
I think it makes sense. I think it absolutely makes sense. And maybe we didn't think about it or talk about it, but I'm wondering too if it's not just what we hear, but maybe what we see too. I'm stronger in the vision area than I am in the auditory. So I might have to add what we also should see or see. Something like that.
It all works. Multiple means, right? So, I'll kind of start with an idea that I've been thinking about is, tone of voice is something when you talk about communication, it's actually more powerful sometimes than the words we use, is how we say things or our tone of voice or how our face looks when we're saying it. And so, for example, on this show, we're always smiling because we're always laughing at each other as we prepare for this, because you just never know what's going to go wrong or go right. But anyway, I think...
Did you say go Ron or go right?
That was a little slip, wasn't it?
Yeah.
When I walk into classrooms and walk down the hallways, that's one of the things I listen for is, what tone of voice are the adults taking with each other and with the kids? What's the tone of voice? What are kids saying to each other? So, sometimes that gives you a window, I think, into kind of the belief system within that environment.
And sometimes, Barb, I'm just going to throw in here, sometimes, when you talk about tone of voice, some people don't realize it. But if they're starting to get a little bit angry, sometimes their tone will go up in octaves. And before you know it, it's just a screechy talk sound, and they don't realize it.
Right.
And then they wonder why people start freaking out.
Right. It's true. You're absolutely right on that. And, one of the things I hope that we can hear is if somebody was like that in my building, what I would like to be able to do is to gently share that with them. Like, did you realize that when you were getting a little, upset with the kids because they weren't maybe quite following the directions or weren't getting in line the way you wanted, that your voice started going a little shrill and you were a little bit louder and your body seemed a little tense? Like, to me, that's also a part of UDL, is that feedback piece that we can give to each other and help each other, because we can't see ourselves in those moments. We can't self-reflect in a way that's really accurate. At least I can't. I've never gotten very good at that. So,
I'm starting to get into this more now, Barb. This is a great conversation, by the way. There's also the rigidity, the rigidness of a person. A person will become more rigid as they get more tense. And sometimes, I don't know whether some people notice, but some people, they might even have a muscle on both sides of their cheeks that start kind of like gills on a fish almost. They'll start going in and out faster and faster the madder they get. You'll notice their fists are tight, their hands are tight. I mean, it's those very visual type things, and people don't realize that they're doing it. Heart rate gets up a little further, blood pressure goes up a little more. That happens more with us older people than the younger people. But maybe a little bit of a sweat on the brow, because we're allowing ourselves to be put in that, and it's a human thing. It's fight or flight. And I think we have to be careful not to allow ourselves to get into that. But you're right. Not to mention the facial expressions. I'll let you talk about those.
Well, from on a positive perspective, the power of a smile is so Well, it's powerful, right? I mean, it's just when I see teachers standing outside of their classroom door, like first thing in the morning as students are coming in, or at the high school when they're changing classes, and I see the teachers out there just, smiling at kids and saying, "Hey, how you doing? Glad to see you. It's great, going to be a great day." Just how that can change the environment by just that simple smile and that simple just interaction with kids. So I think, we need to use our smiles more. And I have to remind myself of that.
Well, I'm going to throw this one out there because I've never forgotten it. But there has been many people come forward, I think, over the years, and I'll bet you know of at least one, where a person will say, "You know what? Today was the day I was going to commit suicide. But I didn't because somebody took a minute with me and talked to me, or someone gave me a smile that I couldn't get out of my head. Somebody did something that broke my train of thought on what I was going to do. And you know what? I never did it." So I think we need to be that extra smile for a young person or an older person or a fellow teacher in this world,
right.
Because honest to goodness, we don't know what that person's thinking. And a lot of times, right before that happens, people actually look like they're happy because they've already settled it in their mind what they're going to do. So I think if we can reach out and, one of our guests said, hope. If we can just instill hope, let's instill hope today.
Mm-hmm. That's great. That's a great message, Ron. I think another way that we can do that besides, that smile or that simple, checking in with a person, we can instill hope by giving some positive feedback to our learners as they're trying to tackle maybe something that's really challenging to them, or maybe something's really easy for them and they push themselves a little harder, to challenge themselves. And the way that we affirm that and encourage that is another way that we can inspire some hope in a classroom designed by UDL. So,
and you know what? Sometimes we don't have to fully understand it either to be able to affirm something. Because some things are outside, we don't always realize or know everything because of cultures are so different in different families. So, I think we have to kind of remember that. And that's a hard one to remember.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tough one, but.
It is. The other thing that I think we might hear in a classroom or in a building designed with UDL in mind is just words that bring out people's uniqueness, their variability. We may have students in our classroom who are really good at explaining something with their words. We may have students who are better at drawing pictures or doing artwork to explain what they know. And so I think by us, acknowledging that with our learners, and like you always bring up, our staff, maybe there's some staff that are really super good with bringing out a quiet, reserved student, or maybe there's a staff member who's just really creative in how they design assessments. And we have to talk about that and bring that out and validate the variability that is among us.
We do. And as you're saying this stuff, Barb, it makes me think that, you're back into a school system again. So my bet is a lot of this is close to your heart because, you get to see the kids every day and be around them and work with them. And, so I just know these things are close to your heart. And I know that these are the kind of things you want to see more and more every day.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And we can model it, right? I mean, although some people will tell me that I'm really just downright blunt, sometimes.
No, not you.
Sometimes I'm uncomfortable maybe approaching somebody. And so I just try to model what I would want to see. So if I see a teacher who might not be interacting in a real positive manner with kids, I'll just go in their classroom and just really walk around and affirm kids and, oh, wow, look at that work that you just did, how did you accomplish that? That's fantastic. Just trying to model it, and maybe people pick up and maybe they don't. But, again, just being a positive role model for folks is one way to do it.
That is. And maybe this is for a future 10 minutes with Barb and Ron, but one of the things that I like to notice is, and you said, you see this, something you might hear with Universal Design for Learning, but something I like to see with Universal Design for Learning is when I walk into a classroom, we don't have one child off on their own and all these other groups going, or two children sitting with a group that never speak and all the other groups are going and everybody's interacting a lot. I really like to see all the students interacting, and not, students are students and they just look like they're having a blast learning, and we don't, it's real participation, and the barriers have been removed, I guess is where I'm going with that.
Right. And the teacher has to kind of have an eye out for that, right? To monitor, have I heard from everybody today? How can I bring in this child's voice or this student's voice who seems, unsure of how to engage? And again, in UDL, those relationships, like you're always telling us about, once we know a little something more about our learners, then we can use that to bring their voice forward. Yeah. And so a good teacher who really is designing for variability will watch out for people whose voice hasn't been heard and try to bring that out. So yeah, as well as the physical environment, you're right, like having kids separated. Let's not do that again. How can we get everybody together? How can we hear everybody's voice? So
with that, Ron's out.
Well, it must be 10 minutes is over with Barb and Ron. So join us next time. Barb is out.
YouTube, please subscribe, like, comment, and share.